Alex,
James.
known each other a few years now.
Yes.
I've always admired your follow-up.
The sign.
Halogen sign or whatever. Neon sign you have in the back of your office.
Thank you.
You've been doing wholesaling local to the Tampa area for numerous years.
Six-ish, yeah.
6 years. And you've gotten a lot of success with it. If you want to just quickly introduce yourself and specifically what you do in real estate, because you have a very, not just within wholesaling, but you have you've kind of carved this niche out for yourself where you go after some of the hairiest deals that I've ever seen, right?
Yeah, we do.
So what would you say, how would you describe what you do in real estate?
We go after the deals that nobody else either wants to touch, has figured out existed, or the deals that just stop people dead in their tracks because title can't underwrite them for whatever reason. In 2016, I was a hearing aid specialist in Illinois, and I hired a receptionist who was ex-military, and this guy would just not be quiet about real estate. So he's checking in patients, and he's always like, hey man, the market, the this, the that, I'm gonna buy some apartments, this and that. I'm like, dude, at the time, I thought hearing aids, medical device sales, that was it. I was making six figures as a young 20-something making that. I'm I'm rich, this is fantastic. But this kid, Jason was his name, he just kept on going on about real estate. And eventually he bought some apartments and the passive income outweighed what I was paying him. And I was kind of huh. So that got me to go back to my office and Google how to make money quick in real estate. And of course, Tom Kroll's Wholesaling Inc., which is now the TTP program, that's what pops up.
Okay.
So I explore it, do my due diligence on it, and I was just in 90 days I can make 10 grand. And I was like, maybe I'll pull the trigger on it. But you had to spend $5,000 for the program. I didn't have the $5,000. I was spending all the money I was making, living a great lifestyle. So eventually I talked to my wife a few times, and I had just gotten done with my MBA at that point. So I would always I was working full time, just got done with my MBA, I needed something else. I'd already tried some multi-level marketing scam. That didn't work out. So I was like, let's try real estate. Because I wasn't the type to go home and sit on the couch. So anyway, I bought the program, only to realize it's just a seller direct mail marketing program. Mm-hmm. And it kind of teaches you how to be with the leads and whatnot, but it didn't teach you everything. So I was kind of at a loss. Put the program by the wayside, but didn't pay the credit card bill. Got my real estate license, and my wife was just kind of I think 8-9 months later, she was like, hey, did you pay the credit card bill for the real estate thing? And I was like, no, I didn't. She's like, oh, well, how do you plan on fixing that? Because you're the one who did that. And she's like, I'm not paying for that.
You're the one.
And I was like, well, eventually I'm going to get back started in real estate. And at the time, we were moving down to Florida in the process. Just a lot of things were going on in life. So I started real estate up in Chicago, but I was doing it down in Florida.
Okay. And
we came close on a couple deals, but nothing ever closed. So we moved down to Florida, and that's when I realized that the credit card had a 15-month introductory 0% interest period. And at month 16, you get hit with 25%, and the balance ballooned up to $12,000. So now I'm racing against the clock, and I'm like, shit. And I had to go back to my leads, I had to follow up on everything, and eventually we got a deal to close in January of 2018. And it was $13,000 was my half of the assignment fee, which paid off the credit card bill. And I was like, I am never doing this again. And I told her, I was like, I'm just gonna focus on hearing aids. And the next day, we got a call from one of our direct mail pieces with some guy right down the street who needed to sell his house at 3702 North Tampa Street in Seminole Heights. I told my wife, I was like, let me just do one more of these deals, then I'm done. And she's like, okay, then you're done. I was like, for sure. So we made $8,000 on that deal, and I paid off the remaining balance in my car. And I told my wife, I was like, hey, I know I said I was done, but if I can start making some money on this, this might be a good side gig. Well, we all know how that goes in real estate. So I worked for a year as an acquisition manager for one guy, and I started realizing that I was stringing together everything from the A to B and the B to C, and I was pretty much doing everything. I was like, I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
He wasn't paying me that much though, so again, the balance in the bank account was fluctuating. We were still kind of running on adrenaline and fear. And then it was September 3rd, 2019, I fired him and had to go off on my own. My wife was 3 months pregnant at that point. And
first kid?
Was that?
First kid?
Yep, first kid.
Okay.
And it was pretty much do or die. And it was the 13th day that I was on my own.
You're really sharp with dates.
Oh yeah, well when your back is against the wall and you have no other option but to succeed, you have to get shit done. It was like the 13th day we closed our first deal on our own for 14 grand. And then it was shortly after that we closed another deal for 6 grand. And then 30 days after that we closed our first big deal, which was $50,000. It was 2722 Essex. Shane bought it from us. And that was when you go from a fluctuating bank account that never exceeds like 10 or 15,000 to making 50 grand. I still remember because we lived in a townhouse about a mile away from where we're sitting, and I was like refreshing my Chase account, and when like the $50,000 hit, that was the richest I've ever felt in my life, because you go from not having that money to having it, and I was like, holy crap, like I've made it. And then just kind of ballooned from there, and 117 deals later, here we are.
Yeah.
So
for somebody who might be watching this right now and they're newer to real estate, you talk about, you know, Alex, you're in real estate. How are you making 14, but then 50, but then 7, and then different like size of increments? What produces that revenue? Obviously, I know, but would love to hear you explain.
Sure. So it's just the difference in between what you have the property contracted at with the seller versus what you sell it for. So every deal's different. Some sellers, understanding seller psychology is like the hardest thing. You have to understand and serve your seller or your client. So if your seller, how do I put this nicely? When your seller needs the money and they have the problem, which is the asset, the property, they just want to get rid of it quick, you have to figure out what's important to them. And if getting rid of it quick and taking less than what it's worth is what they want to do, then you just go out and you find the buyer and you connect the two things and you make your fee in between.
Yeah.
Sometimes the seller is comparing multiple offers, they want highest and best, and that's when your fees are going to be smaller, but you're still serving the seller.
Yeah.
A lot of the sellers that we work with, they don't want a real estate agent, they're against commissions, they just want to deal with one person, get to the closing table, get their money, and be happy. And it's a very simple thing, that's all they want.
Yeah, very seamless, very smooth.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but they want to be able to call someone, which is me, and ask, hey, you know, what are the details about closing, where are we going to be? So I'm kind of like their tour guide, if you will. But it also depends on the property. Some of these bigger deals, they might be like development deals where it's a house that sits on 2 or 3 lots. Some of the smaller ones might be a nicer house in a decent neighborhood that, you know, the seller's, again, just looking to get highest and best on. So the smallest deal I think I've ever done was like 2,500. The biggest one was, it'll end up being 218,000, right around there.
End up being implies it's not done yet?
No. I took a fee up front, and then there was some stuff on the back end that I was able to negotiate once the homes are sold. And actually the second one's closing tomorrow. Okay. So I've been involved in that deal for a while. Okay. And I did it that way because as the tour guide in the deal, I had leverage to negotiate those things within it.
Yeah.
So,
do you use that terminology when you talk with sellers, the tour guide terminology?
I do use that, yeah, because a lot of these sellers, like, they're just getting hit with so much stuff. They're overwhelmed, really, and they just want answers, but, like, they don't know what they don't know. So I'm like, you know, when I'm pitching my solution to their problem, I'll just be like, hey, like, do you just want, like, we're about to go on vacation, per se. Do you want, like, a tour guide? Because I can just guide you all through this. I get paid at the end by my buyer, but, like, if you just want someone that's going to guide you through this and make this easy, like, I'll solve all the problems. I can do that for you. And I find that's what they like most of the time.
So it's funny because we were just talking about it, like comparing our calendars. So can you walk us through a typical day with real estate? Like, what does your morning routine look like?
So I wake up at like 3:30. First thing is the cold plunge for 30 minutes straight. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do any of that. I'm sleeping at 3:30.
But you do have a cold plunge, though.
I do have a cold plunge at home. We use it for athletic recovery because CrossFit just beats the hell out of my body.
Yeah.
Do I look at you or the camera or both, or do you care?
You can do
it's
both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty unfiltered. So usually I get up at like, first alarm goes off at like 5:50. That's gonna be a snooze for sure. And then I'm like kind of like up, so I get up at 6. First thing I do is get a glass of water, go out to the Lanai where we have the nitro kegerator. Shout out to Look Alive Coffee.
What is it? What was there?
Look Alive Coffee.
Look Alive Coffee, okay.
If you have, I forgot to bring you coffee beans. I will do that. So it's 6, I'm like half asleep. Go out there, get my nitro, and get my wife's nitro. It's a very important thing. Always get your wife, significant other, coffee in the morning. Get hers, go back, and we have what's called like the coffee hour in bed, where usually we're sending each other memes on TikTok, just like joking around with our day, or talking about the day. So it's like a ease into the morning, shower, get dressed. I call it my trad husband responsibilities. My wife and I just joke around all day. I empty the dishwasher. Very important that I do that. Prepare the waters for the girls. We have a wonderful 4-year-old and 2-year-old daughter. Eat breakfast. Girls wake up at 7. 7 to 8 is just like a circus in the house, getting the girls ready for daycare, trying to get out the house by 8, drop one of the girls off at daycare. My wife drops the other one off. Then get to the office. And usually, no, I don't go to the office first. I go to CrossFit and I work out.
What time is that at this point?
That is like 8:30 to like 10:30. I try to get a good 1.5 hour to 2 hour workout in, 3 times a week. Health is wealth, because if you're not healthy, you can't work. So as I get older and older, I kind of realize that I've got to take care of the health part in order to do the making money part.
I agree with that. Everybody goes about that in their unique way. How old are you now?
Mentally or actually?
Both.
33 actually. Mentally, some days I feel like I'm 50. But no, 33 now.
Okay.
But as I progress into my 30s, my metabolism slows down and the dad bod starts happening, it's like I really make a cognizant effort to work out and work out hard. And during that time, my phone's on Do Not Disturb or just not on me. It's probably around 11 that I start my work day. I try to ignore as many calls as I can and texts that I can, unless it's a client or someone who I'm going to do business with. I'm sure you get it too. All the text, all the crap with, we have motivated seller leads in your area and this and that. So I just get rid of all those. And then from 11 to 3, it's pretty much like intense work. I try to condense the workday into like 4 hours. Okay. 4 hours is like all I have in me really to like focus.
It's a sprint.
It's pretty much a sprint. Okay. Like lunch is maybe 10, 15 minutes, but it's 10 hours condensed into 4 hours. So I'm just going nonstop the whole time. And then 3:40 p.m. is like the cutoff.
It's a hard cutoff. 3:40. It doesn't matter what you're doing.
Nope.
Unless it's like an insane hair on fire emergency, or even with that, you shut it down.
Yeah, shut it down.
Shut it down.
So I have to go pick up one of the girls from daycare usually, or get home so my wife can go pick up one of the girls. And at daycare, they charge you like by the 10-minute slot if you pick your kids up late. So it's like a hard cutoff, man. Like you cannot be late.
Huh. Okay.
So
I did not know that. I don't have kids, so that's an interesting thing.
Yeah, it's daycare is intense, but we love it. And then get home, usually watch some TV with my little one. She's pretty spent from daycare. Usually I'll make dinner, or sometimes my wife does. I love to cook though, so make dinner, hang out with the kids, and bath time is like between 7 and 8. And then at 8 p.m. resumes the sending TikTok memes between my wife and I.
Yeah.
For about another hour. Then I usually go to bed around like 9:30ish. In between there, like if I have like an email I have to respond to or something easy, like I'll respond to it. But yeah, I try not to do real estate between like 4 and 8, which is when everyone calls, of course.
Yeah.
I hate the 5 p.m. phone calls.
So do you just decline them or just
text them? It's like, hey, I'll deal with this tomorrow, or hey, text me, and then I just don't text back and get to it tomorrow. I have found that, and I don't mean to like say this in like a mean way, but if you make yourself hard to get a hold of, people will typically figure out the problem on their own, and then the next morning when you get to it, it's like, oh, you figured out the problem. See, you didn't need to call me. I did not need to hop on a quick call. You just figured it out. Like, good job.
This is so fascinating to me. We're pretty different. We're pretty different in the way that we approach.
Yes, we are.
Have you always been this way, or did you have to arrive at it somehow?
That is a good question. I had to arrive at it. When I can divide my life into, before kids, I would be working, when I had like a W-2 job, I was a hearing aid specialist, and I was getting into real estate. So I was working 50 hours a week at that, and then 20 at real estate. But I would go from probably like 6 a.m. to 6 or 7 p.m. just working, and weekends too. And I knew it wasn't feasible because I'm a pretty lazy person. I just couldn't take it, but I knew that eventually if I could just figure out the real estate thing, I could control everything in it. I could cut it down to like 30 hours a week.
And have that freedom to kind of craft your own schedule according to what you like.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I guess the rationalization in my mind is like, you can do a business at any point in time in your life, but you got like one shot at raising kids. And if you F that up and your kids don't talk to you when you're older, that's going to be a pretty crappy thing, because I work with a lot of clients that are in their 80s or probate cases where they pass away. And some of these kids that like had a bad relationship with their parents, it is just insane the things that you hear from them, like, oh, sell their house, I could care less about it. I have no good memories with them. And I'm like I do not want that to be my kids when I pass away.
Yeah.
I guess I just see a lot of the harsher side of real estate, and I know what I don't want it to be, so I'm doing everything I can to like spend as much time with my kids while they're young and before they're off on their own.
What a gift, though, to be given that perspective from someone else who had to experience it. And you know, you don't wish that hardship on them, but we can learn something from that experience instead of you having to.
That like, those were, whenever I see those now, the first few like really scared me. I was like, holy crap, like these kids have no relationship with their parents. Or like, we dealt with one seller who met her dad like once in her life and then inherited his house when he overdosed on drugs. It's like, oh my God, like that's, like this is real. Like this happens. So yeah, definitely a perspective changing thing. And you know, whenever I have those weeks where I'm just like behind on stuff and I want to work more, I kind of like remind myself of that. Like no work will ever be as important as the work you put in with your family now. Like this is like the one shot you have at this. I'm sure when the kids get older, yeah, I'll probably go back to working more, but I'm enjoying it, man. I'm enjoying living like a halfway retired lifestyle. I'm 33.
Yeah. What's it all for? I asked myself this question. Like, what's it all for if you're not enjoying the things that you're doing it for?
Exactly. Like, I feel like so many people in real estate and in other industries, they're like, have you ever heard of the metaphor of like the Mexican fisherman?
I think I have, but if you want to tell it again, sure.
It's kind of like, so there's this Mexican fisherman who just fishes all day, that's his job, and there's this American guy on vacation in Mexico, and this American guy is like a corporate worker of sorts, and he's telling this fisherman like, oh, you know, we could invest some money into your company, you can get all these big boats, and you could get all these more fish, and you can sell them at the market for higher prices and build up this huge company, and then you can sell it, and then you can live like a nice retired like lifestyle, you don't have to work 80 hours a week anymore. And this fisherman's like, dude, like I already like live a relaxed lifestyle. Like, why would I want to go through all that just to be back to where I am now? And the American guy's like, huh. I think about that a lot. Like, what is this like all for?
Yeah.
Like, I guess for me, like I look at it, I realize you can make a lot of money in real estate, and if you manage that money well, you can outweigh all of your expenses with somewhat passive income. And then you can basically start firing yourself from your job and retire early. I mean, at least that's kind of my plan.
Yeah, you're on track. Anything special that you have planned? So I see 131 Realty Corp on your shirt, which I know is the name of your business. So you're at deal 117. I guess two questions here. One, where'd you come up with the name 131? The second part is, what special thing do you have planned in 14 deals when you get to 131?
131 is my lucky number. It's like a number that I see everywhere. I always believe that, you know, you work hard, luck will be on your side.
Okay.
Second thing is, you've been asking me what party I'm going to do for the 131st deal. I haven't figured it out yet, but we're going to do something. It's going to involve food, my favorite thing, and people, my second favorite thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, it'll be in the morning because I'm a morning guy, but we'll do something special. I want to invite like a bunch of like newer wholesalers or just a whole EIMG group, honestly.
Yeah.
And yeah, just have like a party to celebrate like everyone's success and whatnot. Because it's not only my success. I'm like one person doing this, but there's plenty of other people involved.
Yeah. People who probably been part of your journey in some regard, worked with you, brought you a deal, brought you a lead. Yeah.
Yeah, we should clarify that. This is not just me doing all this stuff. Like, maybe I don't have them on my payroll, but I did not get here alone. Like, I got here through the help of title agents, attorneys, other wholesalers, buyers, you. And like, this isn't done by myself at all.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate that. You know, real estate is a team sport, and I stand behind that. The more I've like fully appreciated, I feel like there are levels to this game, and when I'm like, you know, I'm kind of burning my rubber a little bit, grinding my gears, and I'm like, just like more collaboration. It's like, boom, go up a level. It's kind of crazy.
It is, because we all want the whole pie. Like, I get it. We all want the whole pie. We all want all the profit. But I've really had to like convince myself from like splitting the pie. Like, I have one guy right now who's been bringing me deal after deal after deal, and they're like $100,000 plus net profit each.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I only get 50% of it, plus I have to do, you know, a lot of the work, but it's just like, how much in marketing did I pay for that deal? $0. So it's like the collaboration is worth it, especially as we get on and on in our real estate careers, because, I mean, there's people that are much smarter than us, that have done bigger developments than us, and teaming up with those people gets us to that next level, that next level, that next level.
Yeah.
So it's a hard thing to accept, though. I will say that.
Yeah. What does your team look like right now? Do you have like assistants offshore? Any leverage of people that you have doing your calling or anything like that?
So great question. It's me, my title companies that I use, a few different attorneys. We do have one VA who is our professional people finder. She goes after the people that normal marketing can't get to and gives me a report on each person. We used to have a guy that was making lists for us, but actually let him go last night just because...
Oh, like this is very fresh.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of rotate out people here and there just as our business evolves, but we don't really work off of lists anymore. Like we have found as time goes on, lists are what everyone else markets to.
Yeah, they're getting burned.
Yeah. And I mean, they were successful for a long time, but now we have found, I can't really disclose exactly what we do, but we've figured out a way in the past 30-ish days to go after leads that people that would not appear in any type of marketing, and then from there we filter those leads by a few very specific criteria that we don't think anyone else has access to. We verify this by the time we get to like the next of kin. We ask them if they've had any other real estate investors contact them, and so far it's been 5 no's.
Okay.
Like every single person has said no. We're like, yes, this is like working. I can't really go into details
No,
about
we
what
don't
it
need
is.
to. Yeah, you've identified an unfair advantage for yourself.
Yeah.
And you're just really capitalizing on that right now.
And to be fair, one of my JV partners, he's the one that brought it to me, but I kind of like added a few different tweaks to it that I knew from experience on how to do.
Okay.
So we're going to continue running with that, because if I had the option between doing 100 deals a year or 10 deals a year just with much larger profits, I would do 10 deals a year at like 100K net a piece.
Yeah.
To do, I used to do like 30-ish a year, but we just found that going after the more challenging ones are, it's more up our alley.
Yeah.
It fills our cup more, and we can help sellers in better ways doing that way.
Excellent. So I'm gonna go back to a day in the life of Alex. So you're condensing what used to be a pretty spread out workday, 10+ hour workday, into what now is 4 hours. So you show up after your workout, you're ready to go, that like 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. window. What's the thing that you want to do first when you start that 4 hour sprint? Is it the same every time? Like what's the most, eat the biggest frog first kind of thing? Like what's the biggest thing that you start out your first 4 hour block with? If it is something consistent. If it's not?
Usually what I do is I turn on my computer. I've got one of those like huge like wraparound screens, and my background is Pass-A-Grille. And I look at Pass-A-Grille and I think, where would I like to live on this beach when I retire? That's usually the first thing I do. I always have the end goal in mind. So I'm always visualizing like what retirement with my wife and I is going to look like. The second thing I'll do, respond to any text messages or emails that are like urgent. If like there's any transactional details, if there's a closing coming up. The third thing I'll do, I'm trying to think of communication-wise, is anyone who's called me, I'll text them to text me or email me.
You're not a call guy?
No, absolutely not. Unless we're working with like an older client who doesn't text or email, then I will give them the time of day, give them the red carpet treatment. But I have found that if I cannot be on the phone at all throughout the day, I can usually save an hour or two. Text or email, and it's like, don't text or email me the problem, only like the proposed solutions to it.
I'm a big believer in that.
Don't like, even if it takes you a few more hours to respond, just respond the solution. I don't want any problems. Like that's, and I tell people that. Like we're dealing with an attorney on a closing right now, right before I came here, and he's like, oh, we're gonna have to do quiet title. I was like, solutions that don't take 60 days. I need a solution in 48 hours, otherwise we're gonna have to fire you and go on to the next title company. Like, I think like the biggest part, again, going back to the original question, like some of the most important things are just making quick decisions that get to the closing table or get the problem solved.
Yeah.
Because I have found like your gut feeling in real estate is like always right. Like sometimes I can just like read through the lines on like certain emails, like this one that I'm using. As soon as this attorney was mentioning quiet title and another 60 days, I was just like, he's not closing this file. I told my JV partner this last night. I was like, start looking for other title companies. I was like, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
And of course, this morning, what do we see is exactly what I predicted. So that's our problem to figure out this afternoon.
What you saw is that you are going to have to find another attorney, or they already came up with a solution?
No, we're going to have to find another attorney. This guy wants to quiet title. I understand why he wants to do it, but that's just not what we're going to do. Okay. So again, it's just making quick decisions to pivot to get to the closing table. Because this is the North A lots that we rezoned.
Yeah, the ones the originally I looked at last year. Yeah. Look at that.
So we're, again, and you know how many months I've been involved in that deal, plus the 5 years of follow-up it took to get there. So we're on year 6 right now, and I'm not waiting another minute. It's just
Yeah, I want to make sure we restate that, just to be clear. You've followed up on this with this owner for this transaction for 5 years.
Yes. Do you want to know how I found them?
If you're willing to share.
So, my old boss, he always would say, like, if there's a trust on title and it says, like, Joe Smith trustee, and there's a P.O. box for the mailing address, don't bother with that lead. You're never going to figure out who they are.
Okay.
And I was just like, if the owner's alive, which they have to be, or their heirs are alive, they have a pulse, they can be found. Like, there's got to be a way. So I researched the hell out of every deed in the county in Hillsborough that had anything that I could pull from this, the previous deed that deeded the property over into this trust. And there were like probably 20 successor trustees on it. Like, it was a complicated deed. So I spent days and days and days researching it. And I found, I felt like I was like trying to find like a detective trying to figure out who done it or something.
Yeah.
And I found the wife of the owner. And I looked her phone number up on White Pages, and I called her about 20 times over the course of a week. And she's like, what do you want? And I was like, hey, does your husband own this property? She's like, yes, and many more. Stop calling. And I was like, I did it. I found the effing owner. I was like, I knew it.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, okay, now I just have to convince them to sell me the property.
Yeah. So you're more excited about that you actually found them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, more than the fact that they would sell, because you're like, it's just a matter of time.
It's just a matter of time, because they were older. And I just, when people get up into their 80s and 90s, their money doesn't really matter to them too much, from what I found. They have all these properties throughout the area that they're not doing anything with, and eventually I was like, they're gonna have to liquidate some of them, and I was right. So it's like I found them, and then I was like, who else is gonna do that to find these people? And I've actually, while I've been under contract, I think 2 people have reached out to me, and how they get my information, I'm not sure, but they've reached out to me asking about this property. 2 other investors. They're like, were you involved in this property at all? I think because I had it listed on the MLS for a little bit, maybe that was it.
Yeah.
And they were like, I think we found the owner. We did all this digging. And I'd like tell them, like, you were close. Like, you were like 1 step off. But I realized, like, no one's going to go that extra mile. So I might as well do it.
Yeah.
So, yes. And then.
So, quick question. You called her 20 times.
Yeah.
What's your strategy of this, right? Do you double dial immediately, both at the same time? No voicemail? Yes voicemail? Like, what?
This one was so early on. I can't recall exactly what it was. But now we always double dial. We always leave a voicemail if it's an iPhone. So what we'll do is we'll test out by typing in the number, and if it pops up blue, then we send like a video, or we'll send like a voice message or something.
Okay, so sorry to cut you off. This is fascinating to me. So double dial, no answer. You don't leave a voicemail, and you'll record a video of yourself and send that to them for the first time you reach out?
Yeah, might as well, because they're gonna be like, who the F is this? You want to like interrupt, like, you got to think, let's say these people are getting a bunch of political texts and texts from other investors. Their mind is so programmed to just, hit the report junk and delete button or block the number. They're never going to answer it. Then all of a sudden, a non-Android, an iPhone user texts them something and pops up blue, or sends them a video. They're like, what the hell is this? Like, do I know this person? They click it, they watch it, and they're just like, who is this guy? But I'm a human. I'm not just some automated like auto text or something. And we all get those texts, and we're so annoyed by them. So I try to interrupt it. Another thing I'll do is I'll screenshot my Facebook or something, and if I know they're on Facebook, which I've probably done my due diligence and found them on there, I'll say, hey, I sent you a friend request, can you accept it? Here's my profile. And they'll be like, this guy's getting really creepy.
That is kind of, I mean,
like, who is this guy?
Prince of Nigeria stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then I just keep on with it, man, and sometimes I'll send them some edible arrangements, or like the North A guy, like after, I forget what storm it was, he has another property and there was just like tree branches all over it, so I sent someone over to clean that up for him, and I sent him a before and after picture and said, hey, your lot was dirty, I wanted to clean it up for you. before I'm even in contract on any of their properties. So it's like all of a sudden, like, I try to make myself the guy that when it does come time to sell the property, what I want the conversation to look like between the wife and the husband is, hey, who's that one guy that was really nice and he keeps on following up with us for all these years and cleaned the lot that one time? Oh yeah, Alex. Yeah, let's see what he has to say about it. Because when they're scouting out other investors to buy their property, again, everyone's surface level. I've already made all these routes with these people. I've been there. And the fact that I can execute it and get it done just adds to it. So I do like to develop a lot of rapport in non-traditional ways too.
Yeah.
So
man, that's epic. That's epic. So you talked a little bit. I got so many questions, man. I could be here for days. Quick question. You talked about the decisions that you have to make, especially timely ones. Do you feel like you ever run into decision fatigue? You ever heard that term before?
I do. I do sometimes run into decision fatigue, and that's when I know that I should be delegating stuff to other people, or I'm doing things that are not my job. That's like, the title agent's job, or like, I'll give you an example. I actually did get decision fatigue this weekend. We had a really bad probate with an attorney that kind of just gave up on it, which has never ever happened to me, but the attorney was he's way bogged down, he has way too much to do, so I started doing the probate. Like I told him, I'm just gonna do this probate for you since I know how to do it. Just give me the documents, I'll get them delivered and everything. And it was just like, I'd taken on so much at that point, I was just like, I just have to get through this to get it done because there was nobody else I could delegate it to. But usually I will delegate stuff to people and just be like, hey, like I'm way behind, can you just do this for me? Yeah. I also delegate things to my kids sometimes, like, hey, can you go get me like the diaper wipes and a diaper? Like I don't want to go all the way over there. Yeah. So, but yes, I do run into decision fatigue, probably more than I should. Yeah, I feel like I've been through times where I run into it so frequently that I try to do certain things to get ahead of it before it even happens. Like here's an example. I literally wear the same thing every single day. Me too. I wear the same thing every single day because like that's no longer a decision I have to make. Oh yeah. Like now I just show up and I go about what I'm normally gonna do. I think a lot of people don't understand why people like you and I do that. It's because like if we can do like one and getting dressed for some people like you probably think the same way I do. I'm like you have to match colors. You have to like coordinate with stuff. Like I pretty much I think I have like 17 of these shirts and just every single day it's just the same thing. And it's like, it literally makes my day so much better. And I'm like, now I know why Mark Zuckerberg did this. Like, just one less decision we have to make. Yeah. All right. So again, going back to like your 4-hour workday, what is a recent challenge? And you're constantly solving problems and facing challenges head on. But what's a challenge that was like a little bit atypical, a little bit bigger than normal that you faced recently, and how did you deal with it? If you need time to think, we can bump to another question too. No, I have. This one was actually one that I faced about a year ago. It was deal number 100, and it was actually the hardest deal that I've ever had to date. Okay. In a nutshell, I had to buy out 33% of the property and quiet title against an heir who was, to spite his half-sister, he refused to do anything with his property, so I bought out her portion and quieted title against him. And that was the craziest lawsuit I've ever done because I'm like, quiet title should take 30 days, but we were like 60 days into it. And I'm not very good with court stuff and like waiting and whatnot, so I was calling this guy, I was like texting, I was doing all the follow-up things that I usually do, and he wouldn't respond to it. And he responded on like the very last day of the lawsuit that he could. Gets this like crazy attorney that was like, oh, we're gonna file all this stuff, and I was like, he doesn't even want the property. Like I've gone in and I've cleaned out the property and done all this stuff to it. Anyways, the way that we solved it was I didn't do the heir search on him as well as I could have, and he had a step granddaughter who was friends with a house flipper that I knew. So I got really lucky, and he deeded over his interest to the step-granddaughter, and then I had the house flipper that I know negotiate with her. We bought her out for $35,000 and then owned 100% of the property. And then the second she signed that deed, I put the MLS listing as active because I owned 100% of it, and then we sold it for, I think that was like a $98,000 deal. And $98,000 profit? Yeah. But your buddy made money too, I presume, with his involvement for like helping negotiate? I paid, Heather was her name. I paid her a little bit. Okay. But it was just crazy because I've never had to like rip a property out of someone's hands like that, and I never want to do that. But when I bought out the original 33% owner because her daughter said that she needed money for a breast cancer surgery. And she begged me to buy her mother's interest in the property. So I had to like have that quit claim to me, which again, I don't usually buy without title insurance. So it was just crazy. And my second daughter was like 3 months old at the time. So I'm all like sleep deprived, trying to like navigate through this lawsuit. But I never ever want to go through that again. If someone doesn't want to sell, I just don't want to do business with them. But that was the craziest problem I've ever had to deal with. And like still like I have like PTSD from that, because dealing with attorneys like that and like people when they don't want to be cooperative, like it's tough.
Yeah.
And
It's a drain.
Yeah, but we got it to the closing table, which is all that counts.
Yeah. All right, we talked about calendar. We talked about like, you go in and you look at your system and then you attack it from there. Are there any specific tools or like software that you use to like really stay on track? Is it anything that sticks out to you as a difference maker?
In terms of like being organized, or in terms of executing on things each day?
It could be both or one or the other.
For organization, I mean, I use RE Simply, which is like the most simple platform for lead management, I would say, which takes the least amount of my time to like do like integrations. Like, do you use Podio by chance?
I have before, but not right now.
Yeah, so like Podio, you have to like program a bunch of integrations in it. So I use RE Simply just because it's simple and I just put all the lead information in. A lot of the tools that we use are just public records digging tools, so like Truth Finder and White Pages. And then the other tool that we use that I recommend everyone have access to if they want all the juicy good stuff in like foreclosure or probate cases is becoming a registered user for like Hillsborough Clerk, Hover. You're probably a registered user, right?
For Hover?
Yeah.
No.
What?
No.
Dude, oh my God.
I usually don't have to go back in much public record stuff.
Okay, if you ever do, if you're ever involved in a crazy probate or foreclosure case, become a registered user on the Hover website for Pinellas or Hillsborough or whatever county, and you can literally see the docket of each case item by item. So like the reason why we use that is like in a probate case, sometimes there's what's called an affidavit of heirship. And if there's like 3 heirs and maybe we're having trouble getting a hold of them, it'll just say like their name, their address. And if they e-sign the document, the attorney has to include like the DocuSign like certificate or whatever, and it'll have the heir's literal email address and sometimes phone number on there. So it's like all the gold that we need.
I have a deal for you around the corner for me.
Sure.
And nobody can find the owner deceased a while back, and nobody can find who the person is.
Ooh,
I got a deal for you.
If they got a pulse, they can be found.
Yeah.
Or if they have heirs, I mean, we've.
Yeah.
Just the other week, we located some guy's daughter in Romania within like 24 hours when the police couldn't even locate her because we had to pull his 1986 Cleveland, Ohio divorce decree that named his daughter in Romania.
That's the document you found to then get her name? Holy cow. This is like some stuff I've taken. Like,
well, dude, we go scorched earth on these people. Yeah. My partner and I, we have like a race. It's like a 24-hour race where we try to find the person within 24 hours. Like we act as if they've been like kidnapped and we have to find them. And his hobby before real estate was mapping out people's trees in Ancestry.com. So he's like the tree mapper, and I'm like the public. I can read through like the public records to like we'll lay out these people's lives. And a lot of these people, they like try to change their names, or they're on the run from things, like they don't want creditors to come after that, and like, but yeah, that's kind of what like gives me the adrenaline rush these days. It's like tracking these people down, and then once we find like the next of kin, it's like, all right, how do we tell them? Like, A, this person passed away, B, you inherited their property, C, can we buy it from you? And D, no, we're not some like scam from another country. We promise we're for real. Yeah. So. Yeah. But. Yeah, that's kind of like the different tools that we use. And a lot of it's just come from like trial and error and whatnot.
That's sometimes, that is a way to learn, especially when the road to get results sometimes is unpaved.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, a lot of it is like, you don't know what you don't know. But there's always, thank God we have the internet, because our job would not be possible without it and would take tremendous amounts of time longer. But the answers are always there. It's just you have to first figure out where to dig, and then figure out how to dig, and then identify what you're even digging for. So it's a process, but again, we've kind of narrowed it down that we're one of the very few people that will go to this level to get properties on the seller direct side.
Okay, cool. So you talked about the impact, positive impact of collaboration in the past and how it's kind of led you to get to this point. What are some of the things that have helped you most in this space of like shared collaboration as you grow your business? Like certain partnerships or I don't know.
Yeah, I would say partnerships with trustworthy people.
Yeah.
Partnerships where like I'm very, very specific on the criteria that has to be met in order for me to even touch a property, and only a few wholesalers know. Like they'll vet a property before they bring it to me. Like just running through some of those things, like the things that are helpful. Number one, it better be off market. Like if you send me an on market deal, I'm just gonna ignore it.
Yeah.
Number two, like you better have a contract directly with the seller. Like that's what grinds me the most.
That's a pet peeve of mine.
And then, I mean, there's really only one answer to that question via text. It's either yes or no. And I hate when people send me like, well, it's a friend. Like don't even talk anymore. Like just I don't want to touch it, because you just know what's going to happen when it's daisy chain like that. It's just, I think I've closed one deal that was daisy chained like 3 times, and it was every bit as horrific as you would expect it.
Dude.
So just having really, really tough criteria to filter out 99% of the deals that people bring to me, or like the ones people are like, add whatever you want on top. And I was like, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. You're at the point now, you just instantly say no. Like, not worth my time.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it took me a while to get there because I wanted to help people. But like, I look at it from the perspective of, I don't want to waste my time on it because I don't want my buyers to waste their time on it and get excited about a deal that doesn't end up happening. Or if it's a deal that we have to use private money for with a lender and put it on the MLS, then I'm going to be wasting my private lender's time. And like, if my reputation gets ruined with him, that's not going to only screw up this deal, it's going to screw up all the future deals.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
I just have very, very tough criteria, and barely anyone ever meets it. And it probably, like, if I loosened it up a bit, I could probably make a little bit more money with a deal here or there, but it's not worth my reputation.
That's happened to me, not with something that you brought me, but that's happened to me as the buyer. Somebody was like, hey, I've got this off-market thing. I was like, hey, are you direct with the seller? They're like, we're direct. I'm working with my buddy. We work together. We're partners, right? It's like, now I know the more advanced questions to ask, like, who is on the contract, and are you a member of that LLC?
Yep.
And if not, then it's not. Or do you have an exclusive JV agreement? Is the other question. But so I was like, dude, I'll stop what I'm doing right now. This is actually a good deal. Like, I'll drive out there. I go there 20 minutes later. I was like, yep, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to do the deposit. Let's do it. He's like, oh, so what happened is,
here we go.
It already got, like, somebody already bought it. Like, wait, so
in those 20 minutes.
Yeah. So what the person who got the original contract, they farmed it out to 8 other people, and then one of those people who wasn't the person who brought it to me found a buyer, and now it's like unavailable. It's just utter waste of time.
Yeah.
Time is more valuable at this point than money, and so I'm just like, I'm not going to do that unless you're just super straight up with me. I thought a while back, I was like, I should start a blacklist of people who like I can't trust, but I didn't. I said I would, but I didn't, because it's just more energy than it's worth. So
I personally do have a blacklist. I don't share it with many people, and for the few people that are on it, they're like well-known people that either they're just daisy chainers, or they don't pay realtors their commissions, or for whatever reason, it's just like when you do a deal with them and then you mention their name to someone else, it's just like that person already has a bad taste in their mouth from that person. So it's unfortunate that I have to have that, but in business, there's going to be, 90% of people are going to be great characters, 5% are going to be elite, and then there's going to be that 5% at the bottom that just suck, unfortunately.
Elite.
That. Yeah. You would be one of the elite ones. But another trick
it's on the shirt.
I like it. Another, not trick that I use, but whenever someone starts telling me, oh, well, I'm partnered up with this person or JVing with them, I'm like, okay, just screenshot me really quick a redacted copy of the contract. Just redact the seller name out of it, but I just want to say your entity, and I'm going to verify it on Sunbiz.
Yeah, I don't even need the price.
Yeah, and if they cannot pass that little litmus test, then I'm just like, sorry. And then if they keep on texting me, then I usually just block their number. Yeah. I'm just like, I just have no time to deal with you. And then I get an email, did you block my number? I'm like, no, I don't know what happened, man. My phone's acting weird. Like,
it's funny. I saw somebody in the gym this morning, and they were like, something random came up. They were like, I'm getting like a bunch of spam emails. I was like, did you unsubscribe? And they're like, well, they didn't have an unsubscribe button, like, which I think is a rule, which it is. But I was like, why don't you just block?
Yeah,
why don't you
just block them.
their email? Like, I didn't even think of that. Like, you don't want to hear from them, right? Like,
No,
I don't want to ever hear from them. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
you'll never hear from them again if you block their
block
number.
their email. Like, that's an option. Yeah.
I started doing that probably about a year or two ago, and it's wonderful, man. Like, and I have never missed out on anything from someone that I've blocked, especially with all the political text and all the crap I get now, like, or realtor text. And I feel like I have to put time into it each week, probably about an hour to block everyone, but it makes my inbox tolerable.
Yeah.
Or it makes my SMS messages tolerable. And it's tough that it's come to that point, but just like think of all the junk physical mail you get in your mailbox. Now it's SMS. It was cold calling before that. So it's like marketing, it's always changing. So you just got to kind of keep up with it, per se.
Yeah. All right, we'll do 2 more questions, and then we'll do a quick snapshot, hot shot version of overrated, underrated to round out our show. So you've been in EMG for a while. You brought up Elite, so I want to mention that. Like, has that helped your business in some capacity? Where are you getting the most benefit out of that?
I get the most benefit out of it when I need like a sub for something, and I just go to the recommended contractors list. That thing is the best because people don't put people on there unless they've had a good experience with them. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'd have to use like thumbtack.com to like find someone. So definitely the subs list, or if I have a very unique problem, I will post in the EIMG group to see if someone has had that same problem and how they fixed it. Yeah. So it's really for just the conveniences of that. And to see, like, I like seeing everyone's wins at the end of the week. Yeah. I mean, some of the members are very, very heavy hitters. And I'm like, damn, this is awesome that these guys are in our market. Like, what a time to be alive and be around all these people. Like, this is literally the best market that's ever happened in Tampa and St. Pete, and I get to be a part of it. So I like that part as well.
It's pretty incredible. Like,
it is.
There's some people I know that are working away, like, they're not really loud about it, and we're like, hey, wins. And somebody's just like, wham, like big. I'm like, whoa, dude.
Yeah, like people having like $200,000-$300,000 months. I'm like, holy shit, like this is awesome.
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty epic.
It's pretty epic. It's cool to be in the presence of those people. Because otherwise, it's like, I mean, people aren't going to share that stuff like publicly on Facebook most of the time. So but it's just cool to know what's going on.
Yeah, it's our little exclusive spot to be.
Yeah,
where you can share that stuff. You know, it's funny with the service providers list. We'll remove people too, right? Like, not everyone stays really good, right? You've got the triangle of cost, schedule, and performance. And, when we've heard back from people who, they had good experience, and then somebody's like, hey, this was really, really bad, I'll take them off. Because I don't want that for the community, because that's kind of like, I'm in a way endorsing that they could be somebody worth reaching out to. So
I heard this quote a long time ago, and it took me a while to figure out it was true, but they said like every sub or every contractor has their expiration date. And unfortunately, for a lot of them, it's true. They just either they get too busy with stuff or something happens, their business is short on money, and they start cutting corners. But I always try to catch them during the good times rather than the bad times. And when things do go bad with subs, you just got to fire them. You can't even second guess it. They just have to be gone, move on to the next one.
Yeah. So if let's say that a new investor came in front of us right now and was like, Alex, I'm looking to get started in real estate. I don't really know where to start. What advice would you give them? Like 30 to 60 seconds, quick little spiel. They did have the opportunity to ask you questions. I don't even like to say that for it, the pick your brain question. You were willing to give them a minute worth of quick advice. Like, what would you say to somebody who wants to get in the game?
I'd ask them if they like pain, first of all. If they said no, I'd be like, get away from real estate.
Pain.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Gosh, that is a loaded question. The first place I would start, I'd have to answer their question with why do you want to get into real estate first? Because you always have to have your why.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to get over the hump that it takes to get into real estate. So once they knew their why, recommendations that I have for them: A, get your license. B, explore all the different facets of real estate. So it's like a big umbrella. You can be a retail agent, wholesaler, flipper. Explore them all and just find one that fills your cup the most.
Yeah.
And then the last thing would be always keep your word. Or if you screw up badly enough, do your best to keep as much of your word as you can. Because once you lose your word or your reputation, it spreads pretty quick.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And then the last thing would be, if they're leaving this office and driving somewhere, I'd tell them to turn on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. And I think there's 1,300 episodes, so that should occupy them for like 2 straight years worth of listening. I'd say listen to all of those because those are all typically newer investors that like just closed their first deal. So through osmosis, if you just listen to that enough, eventually it can probably happen to you.
Yeah, it's good advice.
Thanks,
good.
man.
You just gave the code.
Now doing it though, what the crazy thing was, I was thinking about this, and not to like go off topic, but
no, this is really good stuff. Yeah.
I've been attending RIA meetings, real estate meetups since 2017 when we moved down here to Florida, and I've been to a lot of them. And one of the quotes that always resonates with me from Greg Simpson, the owner of TB RIA, was that and it was one of the first very busy meetings I was at. He's like, there must be 150 of you in this room. He's like, realistically, if you're not in real estate, he's like, and you want to get into it, he's like, maybe 1 or 2 of you will make it. And the room kind of goes quiet. And he's like, the only thing that I could really tell you guys is that if you want to make it, you just have to keep on showing up to these meetings over and over and over and over. And he's like, and eventually things will start clicking for you. But he's like, I guarantee 95% of you will never come back to one of these. So I took his advice and I just kept on going to RIA meetings. And I had realized you'd see the same core group of maybe 10, 15 people at every meeting. And those were the people that were doing it. Those were the people that were successful with it. But the other people, they were just faces that would come in for a meeting, realize that you can't get rich quick, and then they wouldn't be at the next one. So yeah, that little piece of advice, consistency will breed success more than anything else in real estate. You just have to be consistent. Even when it hurts or you don't want to do it, or you think that you have nothing else to learn, you can always get just a little bit more, and then that'll get you into it finally.
Alex, wise words. Love that.
Thank you.
That definitely resonates with me. I came into real estate where I really, really took a more focused approach to it as a result of a failure, as a result of missteps with a rental. So I'm grateful for that because it inspired me to get better and learn and get better results. So, all right. Any closing comments before we go into overrated, underrated?
No, I hope I don't screw up the overrated, underrated part.
No. I'm trying to think of maybe 5 that we could do really quick. So we both live in Tampa. We're really close to downtown Tampa in the office we're in right now. And so these are going to be Tampa-related, overrated, underrated type things.
To clarify, I do live in St. Pete.
Yeah, Tampa area.
Tampa area. I do live across the bridge, but I do a lot of real estate in Tampa, and I used to live here. So, all right. But anyways, yes.
Cool. So we can do overrated or underrated. Those are the 2 scores. Or you can do neutral.
Okay.
All right. Neutral.
Okay.
All right. So going to Lightning games.
Never been to one. I'm just going to say overrated.
Overrated?
Yeah.
All right. The hotel stairs at the Edition.
Dude, okay. Underrated, neutral, overrated. That's overrated up here. Ooh, for all you influencers out there.
All right. Chill Bros ice cream.
Chill Bros. I never even had that. I'm going to say neutral. I can't speak on that one.
All right. That's good. Let's see. Going for a run on Bayshore.
These are hard questions, man. What time? And do you post your run on Instagram?
It's up to you. Whatever time and whatever posting or not.
I'm going to say underrated because Bayshore is beautiful, man. It smells really disgusting most of the time, but
certain sections smell worse.
Yeah, it is a beautiful view.
Yeah.
I used to walk it a lot.
Okay. The Elite Investor Meetup.
Oh, for sure. I'm going to say underrated, and I could go on and on about why, but the amount of people that are there am I allowed to go off on a...
It's your answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
The amount of people that are there that are doing business in your market of all different facets of real estate, if you ever want to just put them all in one area, they're there. That's where to be, to meet people, to make connections, to get deals done. For sure. 100%.
Cool. All right. Tampa real estate. This is a tricky one.
Very broad question. I'm going to say underrated. I think there's still a lot of distance for it to go.
Okay. All right. Well, you heard it here today. Good conversation with Alex. Alex, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks
Great
for
time.
having me.
I appreciate all your candid takes and your approach to business, your approach to achieving freedom for your life and not working 10 hours, working the 4 instead. It's admirable.
There's nothing wrong with working 10 hours. There's definitely parts of life where you can do that easier than others. I'm just in the season of life now where it's just I have to focus on what's most important, and family is way more important than business for me right now. Cool. And forever.
Cool. All right. Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you,
appreciate it.
man.